Okay, so we stopped, that's right, on item 213 of part 2 of chapter 17, the develop development of mediums. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cold. Not COVID. I want to test myself today to make sure. So no worries. And this chapter, again, quick recap for someone who were not here the last few weeks, deals with how one can figure out if he or she has the attribute of an ostensive mediumship, of a mediumship that goes beyond the intuitive kind of mediumship that all of us have. And specifically in dealing with psychography, and Kardec states that the only way to know is to put it through a trial, to try to see if it happens. And I use that not only to try it, but to try in following up some very important guidelines that in accordance with Spiritism, basically a relationship with Jesus, with it's not a religious statement, but it's a moral statement. The only way to try is to pick up a piece of paper, a piece of pencil, and he suggests to be done in a safe environment. We can add now safely that should be done amongst more experienced individuals who have studied the theory behind the practice. We always study the theory first before you apply it into practice. That we learn, as read last week, that we learn very safe tools of being able to somehow identify spirits, and by identifying spirits, not necessarily get the name and the social security number of that spirit, but its moral quality, its moral intent, its intentions of bringing to us their thoughts. And one of the ways to do it, primarily most important thing, is by the language that is used. It is important to remember that we are born mediums, we are born with this organic disposition for mediumship, or we don't. If you do have, we have to still work to develop, to make it better, to educate it. There's someone that one may be born with disposition for the piano or to play tennis, but if it's sitting in the couch waiting for it to develop itself, it's not gonna happen. Most of the talk over here refers to a more of a mechanical kind of mediumship, as you have already learned, and it's good, always good to remind. That is the one in which the medium of psychography will write a piece of paper, pretty much unaware of what it is writing. That it's the writing is bypassing its cognitive function, and it's pretty much a mechanical. I'd actually use the term mechanical, and most of us these days would use unconscious. And here we will, after some reading over here, Todd his thoughts more for the non-mechanical or for the conscious mediums. So we continue at 213 now.
Okay. 213. The writing is sometimes quite legible, with the words and letters perfectly salient. But with certain mediums, the writing is difficult to decipher by anybody other than the person who has written it. making it necessary to become accustomed to it. Quite often, the writing consists of large strokes. Spirits are not concerned with saving paper. Whenever a word or sentence is hard to read, we ask the spirit to write it again, which it usually does willingly. Whenever the writing is habitually illegible, even to the medium, he or she can nearly always render it clearer with frequent and sustained practice, performed with much willpower and by arduously beseeching the spirit to be more accurate. Often some spirits adopt conventional marks, which they use during habitual meetings. For example, to show that it finds a question disagreeable and that it does not wish to respond, it will draw a long stroke or other such indication. When the spirit reaches the end of what it wanted to say or no longer wants to respond, the medium's hand becomes still, and no matter what his or her ability or willpower may be, not another word will be obtained. On the other hand, when the spirit has not yet finished, the pencil continues without the hand being able to stop it. If the spirit wants to say something spontaneously, the hand compulsively picks up the pencil and begins to write without being able to oppose it. Moreover, the medium almost always feels something that indicates whether there has only been a pause in the communication or whether the spirit has indeed finished. It is rare that the medium does not sense the spirit's departure. These are the most important explanations we have to give in addressing psychographic development. With practice, experience will bring certain details to light which would not be worthwhile to discuss at present. In general principles, will clarify how to approach them. If people would only experiment, more mediums would appear than was thought possible.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
As I was reading this earlier today, I was thinking how great it would be to have one or more mediums of psychography to tell to us how the process happens to them, because we can read here, we can understand very well. It's very easy to understand everything Kardec writes over here. I'm sure that he got those information through, number one, observation, and through by the testimonium of mediums of psychography. All that we can do, who do not possess the faculty, is observe, and that we do, since we had the opportunity to observe all the mediums practicing psychography. And it's almost if as we are watching, as we are reading this, it's almost as if you are watching the mediums write the psychography, at least from my perspective, from my perception, when I watch individuals writing. The issue of handwriting, we spoke at length last week. Naturally, we're going to start with the natural handwriting of the medium outside of the mediumistic faculty. You may have a small, large handwriting. You want to be so much different from most mediums. In the case of the fully mechanical mediums, it will take more of the calligraphy of the spirit itself, since it's such a mechanical thing. But you have to remind again that it's using the physiological structures of the medium. So you have the characteristics of the medium regardless, even if it's fully fully mechanical. The The handwriting being somewhat large, I think I've witnessed that when we see the tapes, old tapes of Francisco Xavier doing his psychography. It's big. It's big, and it's not many words in one piece of paper. They keep changing papers rather quickly. Kardec make almost like joking statement over here that the spirits are not really concerned with saving papers. And that seems to be the case, especially when you see, again, the old movies of Franciscan Xavier writing. Somebody change paper for him. It's boom, boom, boom. It's like less than a minute, or well less than a minute. They changing pages, it's just one side. There's no two sides writing. So definitely there is no economy of paper whatsoever. Um, Naturally, practice makes perfection. The medium with time will likely be more comfortable with the movements of the hands semi or fully spontaneously. The medium being more comfortable will free more that hand, that arms to do it something, and it will facilitate on a better handwriting, of course. Spirits may use many different techniques to express its thought. Spirits may establish some kind of relationship with one or another medium and may use some signals that the medium will understand very well that, oh, I need to make a correction on this word. I have to go back over there, or the spirit is not happy with the choices that I had made, and stuff like that. That will always be a result of experience, that the medium will be able to perceive those things. And of course, we speak mostly over here of a more mechanical writing, or at least semi-mechanical writing. And when the spirit, let's say, makes a pause, and it seems that the hand stopped when when the medium is ready, it's ready to restart writing what Kardec calls spontaneously. Again, the hand just pick up and start writing again. At the end of the message, once the spirit has said whatever he has to say, or have put his thoughts on that piece of paper, the medium will almost automatically know that it's over, that the master has come to an end. And it would be nice for mediums of psychography to tell us how does it feel, how they are pretty convinced that that was the end of it, but they will know that the end of it had, the end of the master has come. And again, a very important last paragraph. These are the most important explanation we have to give addressing psychographic development. With practice, experience, you bring certain details to light, which would not be worthwhile to discuss at the present. And general principles will clarify how to approach them. If people would only experiment, more mediums would appear than thought possible. If everyone, let's create a very crazy hypothesis over here, that it will become mandatory in every university of the country, that everyone would go take lessons in mediumship, and everyone would practice, would attempt to have psychography. I'm convinced that for those at least who would apply themselves, the number of individuals with ability of psychography would be exponentially much bigger. You don't know something unless you try it, and especially in terms of psychography, unless you put yourself to try, you never know. I am convinced that that would be true. If there is a way to put more people to do a serious trial of their ability to have or not the psychography, the number of meters of psychography would be gigantic. But that's not the case. Comments, questions? Again, we can read all the Kardec's present to us. We can have a very good chance. So it's if you read the experience to go marlin fishing in open waters, you pretty much know very well what is entails just by reading. But unless you put yourself in that boat, put yourself in those waters, you never really understand the experience. So we can understand, we can get the logistic, the theory, the mechanism of action of psychography, but really the feelings, as Kardec tried to put over here, that a medium knows when it's coming, that a medium knows when the spirit wants to take a break, when the spirit is ready to restart, when the spirit is ready to finish the communication. I really think it's only through living it, being a part of it. We have a hand there, the last question.
Yeah, Daniela.
Oh, it's Daniela, okay.
I couldn't rename myself today, so it has this name here.
It's fine.
So you just, it's a silly comment. You were talking about just giving an example. If you had a class and then you had to take psychography as a class, right, in a school, and it just came to my head that I just visualized a campus, a college campus of spiritist education. Like I was imagining like the theory classes, the practical classes, like turning that into college, right? Like there are other religions that turn their philosophical ideas and theory, religious theories and stuff into seminars. Like, you know, they can form people to be priests and so, but that is like a college in itself. So Spiritism doesn't have anything like that. It's just, it made my mind wander through that direction. It's a little bit off the topic.
No, I don't think it's off the topic at all. And I think if it deals with someone to actually go into a room with a group of people and say, let me try this thing. Let me see if I do have the ability to receive thoughts of spirits and write it. And to imagine that in a future that not a spiritist college, like Kardec says that the spiritist is not the religion of the future, but it's the future of religions. It's not far-fetched for me to accept the idea that, let's say in a college, there will be a course of spiritism, that you can take as your elective or something like that. And in that course built in, you have a section of practicing your psychography. To me, it's not far-fetched. It's not a utopia at all. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but to me, it's being very optimistic. I actually see it happen in the future.
Yeah, it's like we talked about this so many times, like why schools don't have this kind of disciplines, right? As another class to learn about. So this is pushed aside to individuals, to individual families to take care of. But why not have this kind of subjects in a school, right?
Right. Knowledge is knowledge. I'm not talking about religion. You're talking about knowledge, understand ourselves, knowing ourselves better, expand our knowledge into the spirituality. Why not? As we read in the first part, the problem is all the prejudices, is all the objection that has created towards spirituality. But we see, at least I'm optimistic to see in the future that those prejudices, those obstacles, going to be more and more diminished. Okay.
Yeah, well, I just read the other day that the responsible for the area of spirituality at Harvard University is an atheist. So that
Yeah, it's a beautiful
shows
thing.
you.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It was very interesting that former Jewish by birth, but atheist.
It'll be very interesting when individuals goes with their scientific mind, try to prove the non-existence of spirits and doing a serious studies, you have to admit that you prove exactly the opposite, the existence of spirits. And a open scientist, open-minded scientist will allow themselves to change that, the mind. If I'm not mistaken, William Crookes changed his position in spirituality with experiments, right?
Yeah, and the one I mentioned on Sunday also, Lombroso. He also changed his mind. He was materialist, and after interacting with Eusapia Palladino, became more interested and became a believer in spirituality.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
Okay. 214. Everything we have stated so far applies to mechanical writing, which is the faculty that all mediums seek with good reason to develop. Yet a purely mechanical function is very rare, and quite frequently intuition is coupled with it to some degree. When mediums are aware of what they are writing, they're naturally led to doubt their ability, not knowing if the writing is their own or if it is from a spirit. They should not be overly concerned about it, however, should proceed in spite of their doubt. By careful self-observation, they will easily recognize in the writings many matters that do not pretend to themselves, or which are even contrary to their own thoughts, ample proof that they did not originate in their own mind. If they will continue, their doubt will dissipate with experience.
Okay. As I said before, most of the talk over here and development of the psychography was based mostly on a psychography more of mechanical or the unconscious type. And Kardec states over here that that's the one that mediums would seek more often. I don't know if it still hold true to today. I don't know if it still hold true for in spirituals, for individuals who study the theory and then goes to try to see if they have the faculty or not, if they would rather be mechanical or semi-mechanical or intuitive or conscious, as another better word, in my opinion. But his argument is good that being a fully mechanical or fully unconscious, it becomes somewhat easier to put thoughts in a paper because you're very much aware that whatever is happening, it's not coming from you because you begin with, you're not aware at all. And being, let's say, a fully conscious medium may, in the beginning, create the doubt of, is this my thoughts that the thoughts of someone else? Is this anemic? Or indeed, there is a spirit passing those energies, and again, energies, thought, to me to dress this energy, to dress those thoughts with my words, because that's how the conscious mediumship will happen, right? You receive the thought, energy, and you write down your interpretation of that thought, basically. You're going to dress that energy with words and put that on a piece of paper. That, for the beginner, I can see the challenge. I can see that the thought is mine, the thought's not mine. Should I write, should I not write? And what we always say, following Kardec's advice, yes, you're right. Don't be so worried. Don't be so concerned if it's anemic or not. A good message is a good message. A bad message is a bad message, regardless from who it comes. And with time, with more self-confidence, with more self-assurance, the conscious medium will easily differentiate his or her own thoughts from a third party, from an outside kind of generator of those thoughts. As a guideline for, especially for beginners, we can use, the thought came to my mind, but it's somewhat not really compatible with the way I think. It's not really compatible with my line of thought, and in some cases even contrary of the way I think. There's a pretty good evidence that those thoughts may be coming from somewhere else, from someone else. Either way, the suggestion that Kardec gives to us and that we give in our training practice from mediumship is go ahead and write. Don't be so concerned. Go ahead and write if you think it's worth it. Go ahead and write. If you think it's not worth it, when you give it a trying, that's what you are doing. Someone that initiating something has to initiate it slowly, and we will have doubts and we have questions, and especially when coming to something that is completely outside of the spectrum of our senses, our physical senses. It's completely outside of the spectrum of our vision, of our hearing, of our tactile. It becomes harder. It's really, I don't want to use the word abstract, but it's the only one that I have because it's not palpable. It's not really perceivable to our senses. And since we are so conditioned to act upon or in association or in relationship to our senses, you have to see, you have to hear, you have to smell it, you have to touch it, and to do something that does not involve none of those, it can be intimidating, can be hard. And Kardec suggests, and we suggest, you just go ahead and write. And eventually you'll be able to perceive with experience what's yours, what's not yours. Comments, question?
Hey, Elmo.
Yeah, Renato?
You want me to share a little bit of my experience?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So for me, I doubt myself a lot. I remember asking João and you a lot of times that I will not trust anything that was coming from me because I didn't know it was. I'm always concerned.
Let me track back a little bit. You were here mentioned those conversations that we had, even before you done the psychography in the center, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because I started on, I was doing the gospel at home, and there was this feeling that writing something, I just got a notebook and start writing small messages, 2 paragraphs at most. And it was was nice messages. Some messages felt like from family members, and then I brought those messages to you and João and the Spirit Center, and then you advised me to educate myself and do it in a safe environment. Not that home it wasn't safe, but in a proper environment where I could be assisted and things could develop in a more smooth way. Let's put that way. But I always doubted because I never thought that I would have nothing to do with mediumship. I have my parents that they have, but I didn't think that I will have that as well. But but in terms of psychography, I remember I went to a treatment on the SGNY just to make sure that everything was right. It wasn't no obsession, no nothing. And because I was having, wasn't just the writing part, was a lot of things were happening at the same time. And I remember after the treatment, everything was gone. Like we quiet for a while. No writing, no dreams, no nothing. And and then I start to work with you guys in the group more closely, and I'm beginning to understand better and practice better. I think for me was some sort of a preparation for what was about to come. I think it took me, I don't know, a year. I don't know, João might know because I lost track of that. A year, half 2 years, I don't remember.
I think it was a couple of years.
Yeah. And working and singing, was great for me, to be in different roles. Let's put that way in the mediumship meeting. And then I remember that one day I felt again the same need that I felt in the beginning of writing, and then I spoke with Jussara. And then, we had a conversation. She advised me to give it another tryout. As you say, we need to try. We never know what's going to happen. And then I remember sitting there and writing just a couple sentence things. I didn't know how, it worked. Because even though when you talk with the mediums, as you said, you read and everything, but once you are actually doing it, there's different mixed feelings. You're afraid, you don't know, you don't want to messed up, let's put that way. And I remember that you and João always advised me, don't worry about what you're going to write, don't worry, just write. So you helped me a lot to keep me at ease and calm, to just be an instrument, just to be a pencil and just to do the work. And in the beginning, I was sitting there. I didn't know how to. It was just a thought. Sometimes it was a full paragraph. Sometimes it was bits and pieces. And then, as you said, you start wrapping around that thought and putting together the best way you can. I remember when things began to be a little bit more smooth once. After maybe like 5 or 6 messages, then you realize how it works with you. Because for me, it's like since I do the psychography and the psychophancy, I never know what's coming. I only know with psychophony, I start to see images. Then I kind of know that it's psychophony. And with the psychography, quote, I like kind of hear the first paragraph of something, and that paragraph repeats itself like a few times. In the beginning, I would, listen the same paragraph like 5 times before start to write anything. Nowadays, and then the second time, I already know that, the message is coming, and it's very fast. Let's put it that way. As you we read before, the speed of writing is very fast. I remember in the beginning I was writing on my lap. It was a little bit difficult to keep the balance, but now with the table, with the armchair, it help a lot. You don't have to worry about that. With the pencil as well, it helps me because the pen wasn't working. But yeah. Now I'm pretty much I'm able to not to think too much and just let it write. Sometimes I get caught up on words because English is not my first language. But again, Jussara, and you advise me, if you don't know a word, just write in Portuguese or something close. Don't worry about the grammar. We correct afterwards. So João is helping a lot with that because I made a lot of mistakes. But the essence of the message there. But it's very interesting. But everything that we are studying here is, I would say, is like 99% of what really happened. It's just the experience part when you go through that. I believe that changed from medium to medium. I believe no, Jussara is different from me, from other mediums, the way you perceive the message. And in time, this, it becomes a little bit more natural. I would say in the beginning, I'm still in the beginning, but in the early message, it was more of a mechanical thing. I was just writing. Now is a more of a feeling. I got only one message where I was writing and singing at the same time. That was some experience. And some message now I'm more, I think I'm more open. So I kind of feel what the spirit is feeling while you're transmitting the message. I remember this, one of the latest message that was kind of a poem. And you could feel the beauty of the poem, of the paragraphs and everything. And I could sense that the spirit was, for the lack of a better word, happy, excited. I don't know what word could I wrap around this. And then while I was writing, I could feel that enjoyment of doing the job. And that's, at least for me, that's rare. Again, it was more of a mechanic thing. But yeah, so I'm still learning a lot. I'm still a very, very beginning of everything. But yeah, so this is just a little bit of a perspective of a psychographer through a meeting.
Yeah, I really thank you for that, because again, I mean, to bring a testimonium for someone who has just recently gone to the initial phase of psychography, it's very enlightening. One question I have that is for everyone here present is, even before, even at home, when you're doing the gospel at home, you had that desire to write. Was something associated purely at mind, or something associated with the hands? The hands feel like I have to pick up a pencil and do something, or it's purely a mind thing? And if that's the case, what leads for you to believe that the thoughts they're receiving should be put in a paper, should be written?
I always wrote things, I didn't know. Now I know, because you know, I used to write poems and music. I always like to write. Always have this facility, you know, to write things. So for me, was natural to write. It wasn't like something that, you know, I have to struggle to write. But when I started to the gospel, was more of thinking about someone or thinking about, you know, ancestors or everything. And then that thought process lead me to think about there's some sort of a communication. They wanted to tell me something, or I need to know something, or I need to pass something. But since you know, I wasn't, you know, in a proper environment, I wasn't developed the psychophony yet. So I kind of you know, let me write something. It was like a thought. Why don't you write? And then I just, the best of my ability, I concentrate, and then I start to write. And after I read, I was like, you know, okay, this looks, you know, doesn't look bad, doesn't, you know, it's not something that I will not share with somebody else. But for me, I think it was more of a thought level. Even today, I don't have this, at least a physical level, no need that feel something on my hand that I have to do something. Not, it's always a thought that comes, and now I can, you know, identify that, you know, it's a message that needs to be read.
That's very good. Thank you. I really thank you for that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions? Any questions for Renato? Can put him on the spot right now. Okay, so let's continue then.
Okay. 215. If certain mediums are unable to be exclusively mechanical, all attempts to obtain this result would be futile, but they would be mistaken to suppose they have been deprived altogether. If they are endowed only with intuitive mediumship, they should be content with it, because it will render them a great service if they know how to take advantage of it instead of repudiating it. After futile attempts have been made for quite some time, if there is no indication of involuntary movement, or if there are only movements that are too weak to produce results, one should not hesitate to write the first thought that comes to mind, without being concerned as to whether it is one's own or another's experience. We'll teach how to make the distinction. Besides, a mechanical movement will often develop later on. We have stated above that there are cases in which it does not matter if a thought comes from the medium or from a spirit. This is especially true when purely intuitive or inspired mediums are writing a work involving their own imagination. In such a case, it matters little whether or not a thought has been suggested to them. If worthwhile ideas occur to them, they should thank their good spirit, who will then suggest more ideas to them. This is how poets, philosophers, and scientists are inspired.
Thanks. I think for the very first paragraph here, that that you would want basically all or nothing, so to say, or you have a fully mechanic mediumship, or how you repudiate it. I can see that happening today with the spiritist teachings. If one does it following the proper guidelines, doing the theory, and after the theory starts with the trials and the practice. Because when you go to the theory, you understand very well that very often we have this or that mediumistic ability, and that's one that you have to develop. And some have the ability for the mechanical, some have the one for the more conscious, And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't make one better than the other. And when we study the theory, we know very well that the quality is in the moral qualities of the medium, period. The mediumship itself is neutral, being fully mechanical, fully unconscious, or fully conscious. The mediumship is itself neutral. What qualifies that is the moral qualities of the medium. We will create relationships with other spirits in accordance with its vibrations. So I think, or I like to believe, again, being perhaps overly optimistic, that by studying the theory in accordance to spiritism again, we should not have to deal with the problem of someone who would repudiate a talent other than the mechanical mediumship. Again, because of the question of how long, how hard should we try to develop this ability regardless? Because what we had stated, or you have it or you don't have it. You're going to develop what's already there. So if it's not there, when do we come to the conclusion that it's not there? If it's there, by educating, by practicing, by trying to perfect it to training, by practicing, then one become more mechanical, so to say. Kardec over here, he says that yes, it could happen. When he says that besides mechanical movements, we often develop later on. So it is often developed later on is not by gratuity of destiny. It's through work. Is by trying and become more comfortable with the expansion of its own perispirit, become more comfortable with the approximation of another perispirit, and allow those things to happen more freely. Things will develop, but you only develop it with work, with trial, not gratuity of destiny, for sure. Not even to be born with that talent is a gratuity of destiny to begin with. It's somewhat prearranged and very often agreed upon before you incarnate. And then it repeats itself that we don't really care if the message is purely anemic or it's one third party. Write it. Okay, with time, it will be easy to differentiate one's thought to someone else's thought. Well, let's assume that it's purely anemic, and it's a good message. Let's assume that it's purely anemic. Let's say that I, Elmo, write anemic messages, but not of Elmo, but the eternal spirit playing the role of Elmo, retrieving information for previous reincarnations. Would that be valuable? Would that be valuable, say, in a historical content? Would that be valuable in perhaps assisting someone to whom, well, we have had some kind of contact in the past, and be able to retrieve some of those informations? Just the fact that it's anemic, again, we have created almost a curse towards animism, something that was really wrong that Spiritism has done, and now it's correcting that anemic equals to bad. No, again, it's all neutral. Everything is neutral. Qualities, we give things qualities. It may be totally anemic, it may be very valuable. But again, it may not be really useful. One have to analyze case by case, message by message. In terms of the intuition over here, when Kardec asked the spirits if the spirits influences in our lives, the answer we all remember now, know by heart, much more than you can ever imagine. So much so that you can say that they are the ones who run your lives. But we are consistently being bombarded by spiritual energies. We are consistently receiving suggestions, intuitions, inspirations, not intuition, but inspiration from the spiritual world. And every time that we place ourselves to perform something, we will create associations, we create affinity with spirits who has something to do with those activities. If I am into poetry and I want to sit down and write a poem, there's a very good chance that I will be receiving inspirations from spirits who likewise like poetry and likes to inspire us to write. But even outside of the arts, someone, I don't know, in the construction field, I don't know, may have a thought that, we're gonna put that structure over there, but before I put the structure over there, I wanted to check the ground over there. And you just go find out that the ground over there is not good. 2 meters underneath the ground, it's pure water. So the structure would collapse if you put over there. And the guy would think, wow, how did you guess that? What made me think that before I put my structure in that specific piece of the ground, I should have tested it first? You rarely do this. Could it be inspiration? Could be an spiritual suggestion, guidance? Why not? If we are being constantly bombarded, if you believe that the answer that the Spirit gave us, that they are always influence us somewhat, we make decisions to follow through or not. Maybe the thought came to that construction person, says, I'm not going to waste my time with this. Let's go ahead and do it over there. And then the building collapse, right? It's not that they run our lives as if our little toys at their hands. We make decisions for ourselves, what we want to follow, not to follow. And of course, it comes to the question that always comes is, well, so can the poet charge for the poem as to publish a book? Can the construction work in this case charge the owner of the building? Of course, yes. This is not an ostensive applicable mediumship that I can say it's the work of the spirits. No, it's my work with the inspiration, the guidance of spirits, which happen everywhere all the time to everyone. It is different than sit down and write down the thoughts 100% of an spirit to publish a book. Now that book really belongs to the spirit. The medium was just an instrument for the spirit to write that book. It's completely different. But inspirations, a little suggestion here and there that we're always receiving, now it's all work. And you should get paid for that, that's fine. Comments, question?
Just a comment, something that just pop on my head. I remember in the beginning, I think most of people, when they hear about ostensive mediumship, I understand why people sometimes are afraid or don't want to have nothing to do, because we think there is a lot of work. it's something that we won't be able to do it. It's a lot of commitment. I have my life. I can be bothered working with spirits, all the kind of stuff that we think. And I'm saying because I was one of those. I'm guilty as charged of that, and I think that happened because it wasn't my way of life. Because when studying spiritism, when living in spiritism becomes your way of life, it ceases to be a lot of work or a burden, whatever word you want to put in there. And I know because when I'm on a train or when I'm somewhere, I'm reading, I'm researching. I lost count how many times I bothered João during the day asking questions, sending messages. And here in the studies, you guys know me, I ask a lot of questions. I'm always and when you have the opportunity to be a part of something like this, with spirits that it doesn't matter if they are more enlightened than you or less. You are always learning something, and it's amazing how much you learn when that really becomes your way of life. So what I'm trying to say here, for those that are considering that might be a little on the fence or in doubt, if they evidently it's everybody has their own time to do it, but it's an amazing journey. It's worth it, and after a while you see that becomes part of you, and it's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah, I don't know why I have I need to say that, but yeah, thanks.
It is time consuming. We are here right now because we choose to be here. All of us, we could be somewhere else doing something else, but it's a choice that we made. And when you make this choice, it is for something. There is a purpose behind of that, right? And nobody is making money out of it. On the contrary, all of us are contributing financially for it. So to take money out of our pocket to do this, everybody's contributing for this, for something that, for reward that cannot be measured, for reward that cannot be measured with numbers or with a dollar sign on it. It's something much greater that it's individual for each one of us, that is much greater than the physical, than the material. Remember what Kardec's biography, when he says that when the spirits revealed to him his mission, they gave him a choice to go ahead and do it or not, and they warned him there'll be a lot of challenge ahead. There will be a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hardship to get this thing done. Do you really want to go ahead and do it? And Kardec, said yes, and he says in his biography that indeed there was a lot of hardship. You have to face a lot of difficulties of many sources, from many angles. You have to really develop skills and patience and humbleness to do this work. But one thing that they didn't tell me in the beginning is that the reward would be much greater than any hardship that I faced. And I think that's the take-home message here. There is a reward to go through to what we are doing here. Mediums and non-mediums. I mean, when João prepared 3-4 lectures and Jussara, trying to lead the whole United States into this direction. The reward is not material, it's not physical, and it could not be. And another thing, no one is doing for the reward, it's doing for the sake of doing. Because again, if you go to the prayer that wonderful Catholic nun when she says, when in her prayers, if I'm doing what I'm doing to escape the fires of hell, please condemn me to your hell. If I'm doing this just to gain entrance into your heaven, please do not lock me out of your heaven. But if you're doing that to be in the bosom of your heart, please accept me there. Doing that for the sake of doing that. The reward comes as a natural consequence like everything else. And with that, we need to stop. So I do want to make the final prayer for us.
Of course, of course. To our blessed Jesus, our spiritual benefactors, with our hearts full of gratitude, we are so grateful being here again, continuing the lesson of mediumship and the development of mediums. May we continue to understand, to study, and put into practice the most important, learning and sharing. We give thanks to Renato for his beautiful stories, and his development of mediumship has helped a lot. We thank you. We ask, as we leave here today, dear Father, may we continue throughout the week our studies, allowing us to meet again next week, and continue throughout the week with our prayers to help all those that are going through so much difficulties. May we continue our prayers, enlightening them, allowing our Father to guide them and assist them with strength and with courage. Thank you, dear Lord, and we give gratitude to our teachers, again coming here and giving their time and effort and devotion to us. Thank you. May God bless them, keep them safe. For all our families and loved ones, may they be protected throughout the week. And with that in mind, dear Lord, we ask permission to close our meeting tonight. So be it.